Okay, if you want to come on in and have a seat, we'll get started. Hey, Jamie, what's the end time normally? Quarter till? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get started because I've got some folks that I want you to hear a little bit from just in a few minutes. So very quickly, I want to just do an update, a little bit of information about what's going on at New Pathways, some of the kind of information we share at some of our events, things that we get out in our newsletter, and other kinds of things like that. I think one of the most important things that we share is the reason that New Pathways exist. New Pathways has been in existence as an agency since 1990. There was a predecessor. The first 6 years, the agency was called West Kentucky Children's Home because Tennessee Children's Home helped begin the work here and actually was responsible for the operation. And then in 1996, they pulled out. A board was established here in West Kentucky. The name was changed at that point. So since 1996, we've been known as New Pathways for Children. But the mission statement has been consistent since 1990. It says New Pathways for Children exist to minister the physical, social, emotional, and spiritual needs of at-risk children in a Christ-like atmosphere. So we operate 3 homes currently. We have 26 children. We're feeding them. We're clothing them. We're making sure they get to school. We're providing counseling services for them because all the children have experienced some kinds of trauma in their young lives. But the most important thing that we're doing is the spiritual focus. That's the reason why in 2014 we broke our ties with the state of Kentucky, because they didn't want us to do the spiritual things. So, feed kids, but don't let them pray and thank God for the food they have. That's the truth. I was on a phone call when we made that decision in 2014 with a lady from Frankfurt who said to me, instead of praying over our meal, Jamie, can't you just have a moment of silence? So I had one with her on the phone. And then I told her, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to pray. We believe God's providing. We believe every good and perfect gift comes from God. And we're thankful for the food He provides, and we're going to pray over it and pray for it. And sometimes when I cook, it needs extra prayers, So, but that spiritual focus is the most important thing. So we're talking about God regularly. We're doing what Deuteronomy 6 encouraged Israel to do. When you get up in the morning, when you lie down at night, when you walk in the way, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Sometimes when I'm with kids, if it's late in the evening, I like to point out the sunset. Isn't that beautiful? See all those colors? Did God have to do that? Couldn't we live in a just gray world? Couldn't we, David? Yeah. But He gave us all of these colors. He didn't have to, but He did. He created us in His image, and He loves us. So that spiritual focus of God and His Word, and what Jesus has done for us, the importance of His Spirit. So that's why we appreciate so much your partnership with us as our children attend here. The blessing of having you, encouraging them, teaching their classes, reinforcing those biblical principles that are so important. Because we want them to choose. We can't force them. We can't make them. My mom, dad couldn't make me. Yours couldn't make you. We can't make these children. But we can do everything we can to encourage it, right? My granddaddy used to say, people talk about, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And he would say, that's true, but you can do everything on the way to the trough to make him thirsty. And I watched him work some horses, Carol, till I thought they were going to fall into dust. And when they got to the trough, they drank. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do everything that we can to make the children who come to us thirsty, to know the God who created them, the God who has a purpose for them. And as you can imagine, they have a lot of questions because a lot of the children have been hurt by the people who should have loved them and taken care of them. And they've abandoned them. They've neglected them. They've often hurt them. And so when they come to us, and they come to us, we have guardianship of them. Whoever has custody of those children works directly with us. Miss Jan still does our intake process and works with the parents to get children in, and she continues to work with the parents even after they come so that we can do everything we possibly can to be a blessing and to be an encouragement to them. So I mentioned our 3 homes. We have 2 group homes, one for boys, one for girls. Right now we have 9 boys in the boys' home. We have 12 girls in the girls' home. And over at the girls' house among the staff, I have to walk very gently because it wouldn't take much for them to scalp me, I think, because 12 girls are a lot of girls. But they do a great job. They love those girls. They care for them. They nurture them. And then we operate one foster home where we have a couple who live in the home. Right now they have 5 young boys that are in the home with them. We, as I mentioned, have 26 children. Miss Jan, because we have one room that's empty at the boys' house, is working on a young boy with a family right now, gathering information. It's a process that sometimes takes a while because we've got to find out as much as we can about the situation, about what's going on, because we can't do everything. Unfortunately, we can't serve every child who needs help. And so our program is designed to do certain things, and we try to match that up so that we can be effective and helpful in what we're trying to do as we serve children. And so it may be in a couple of months we may have 27 children because Miss Jan is working with that. If that situation doesn't work out, she has a waiting list, and there are other children that she's waiting potentially to work with and work with us. Well, that's full, and you may remember in October at the dinner here we announced a capital campaign to raise money to build a new house. This is a sketch of something that will be similar to what we'll build on the same farm where the boys' house is on Highway 945. It'll have 8 bedrooms, so it'll house at least 8 children and maybe 1 or 2 more depending on the situation. You know, sometimes we can double up children if they're siblings, 2 sisters, 2 brothers, but even in those situations we found most of the time it works better if each of the kids has their own room. And so our original intent with this, back at the table outside there's some information about this campaign, about what we're doing. David can share details with you if you stop and ask him. He's standing right there at the back if you want to see what he looks like there. David is our Director of Development and Marketing. Takes care of a lot of those pieces and details for us and does a great job. But we're looking to get additional funding for this. We're somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000 at this point toward a $900,000 goal. And people keep saying, we want to help. We want to be a part of that, just like they have our regular ministry. So there's information out there because we want to serve as many children as we possibly can. You know, on August 1st, 2014, we were a children's home with no children because of the things that happened with the state and our decision to move away from that. Best thing we ever did. God opened up the storehouses of heaven, just like God to do something like that, isn't it? Just pour out the blessings on us. We went from no children, and Miss Jan and I sitting in my office for a day or two, just looking at each other like, what are we going to do? And by August 5th, God started showing us 4 children, 7 and under. End of September, 3 children, 8 and under. Another month or two, 3 more children, 7, 5, 8, and 11. And then from that point, God has just continued to bring them. And there are more out there, unfortunately. So we're trying to get prepared and get ready to serve more children. Well, since 14, just like that decision, at that point, still today, we get no government funding of any kind. 0. And they can keep it. We don't want it. Because when they give you money, they want to tell you what to do. Like, see, if they were giving us money, they'd really be mad this morning that we had kids in church. So you keep your money, we'll go to church. Because here's the thing. Psalm 24:1 says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. So if God owns everything, if He wants us to have it, He'll give it to us. And guess what? He has been giving it to us. We have not had, in the last 8 years, a need at any point of any size that has not been met. Not a single time. Now, I got to be honest with you, there are a few times I was scratching my head, and, awake at night wondering, how's it going to happen? But God had it already figured out. He just hadn't told me yet, So some point, I talk to Him about that occasionally. It's like, Lord, if you let me in on a little bit, but I'm sure He understands, you can only handle so much, so that's all I'm going to give you at this point. But we're able to do what we do because of congregations like Lone Oak who support us, many of you individually who help us, other churches. We've got 100 different churches that support us, about 40 civic groups, businesses, different folks like that who help us, almost 1,100 individuals and families. And this year, in our fiscal year, from July 1 through the end of June, the 30th of June, our budget was $1.5 million, and all of those folks giving together, some giving $5 or $25 or $50 or $100, and then there are a few who give some much larger gifts, but all of that going together, by the end of June, we will have raised $1.5 million to take care of the 26. It'd actually be more because we had a couple of children in the fall who left us at the winter break, so we'll have cared for 28 or 29 children during this fiscal year, and God will have provided everything that we've needed. Well, a few years ago, one of the things that we did, because we felt like it was really important to help us develop the children that came to us, was to start a mentoring program. We looked around and, money's not the only resource. And sometimes we forget that. One of the greatest resources that God brings to us, and I know Jamie understands this, the shepherds here do, is you tap into the people resource. People that are passionate about God and serving Him. People who have gifts that they want to use in service to God. And so we developed a mentoring program because most of our children come from single-parent families, and they've never interacted in a nuclear family. Of course, that's happening to a lot of kids. I read the other day, 62% of all the children being born in Graves County right now are born to single unwed mothers. Nationwide, it's approaching 50%. But I thought that was a little bit high for our area, but it just shows kind of, how everything that's happening in the culture more broadly, it comes home close to us. So most of these kids, they've not seen that. Some of the kids we have don't even know who their father is. And they don't know because mom doesn't know. She's not sure who she slept with and got pregnant by. She just slept with some guy. She got pregnant. Now she has a child. She don't know who the father is. That little boy or girl doesn't. And so we saw a need to get them into situations where they could be around a Christian couple, interact with them, be in their home, let them see and be a part of that experience. Because outside of our foster home, and we just opened it 2 years ago, in our group home, that's not the dynamic of care there. So Jamie, you got a microphone. I'll tell you this before we get to there. Right now we've got 6 mentoring families that have been certified and trained, and 4 of those families are right here at Lone Oak. Now, besides what you do in giving and supporting, helping us with benefit dinner, you've done the trivia night in the past, all kinds of other things, this says a lot about you. It says a lot about these folks, and I'm guessing that Marvin and Sherry aren't here today. I haven't seen them. But Jamie and Tammy are, and David and Shannon, and Sean and Jennifer. Because they were willing to do what that first point there is, give themselves in a relational experience to help empower and encourage and teach and train and walk alongside of our children. And it's an important way that God uses to transform. I mean, I think many times about the mentors that have been a part of my life, starting with my dad, but also a lot of other godly men and women who came alongside me and encouraged me. So Jamie and Tammy were our first. Jamie, if you will, just take a minute and tell us, one, why you were willing to do that and what your experience has been.
Well, have y'all ever tried to tell James Jones no? That would be the first thing. She came to Tammy and I and asked us if we'd be willing to mentor. What is that title? What does that take to be able to mentor kids and for them to spend time in your home? And you do have to become certified. It's not really a hard process. It is a little bit of timing, but it's not real hard to do. And I guess the biggest thing is, why did we do it? Because I felt like God called us to do it. We prayed about it, and we just decided these kids, they need to have relationships with other adults, and to be able for them to have a place to come and spend time. One of my dreams, and I'll just share this. I might get in trouble with Ricky, but is for this church to have so many mentor families that they're not all sitting down here together. They're all spread out through this whole church every Sunday morning. They're all sitting over here, and they're everywhere. Because when they come in, they go, "Oh, these are my families," and so they run to you, and that's where they go, and that's where they sit. So the reason Tammy and I did it was because, one, we just felt God was calling to do it, but two, to have a relationship with these children, and God works out things sometimes that you can't see. Now one of those young men live with us, and we didn't know that was going to happen, but he lives with us now, and we love him. And that's Lucas, big tall kid, doesn't look like us, but he lives in our home. And Tammy and I thought, we're going to have an empty nest. God had another plan for us. So it's not time for you to have an empty nest right now. And so because of that, he blessed us, and with his 3 sisters, they come to our house at least once a month, and so they're there with us. And so I can't tell you how much these kids, if you have a heart for kids, want to love them, and they just want somebody to know that they're loved, and they have a place to come. And when they first started coming to our house, they came in and they were kind of nervous about it, but now all 4 of those kids, it's home to them. They just come in and take over. And it's awesome because it's home to them. So, is that good?
Lucas came to us in the fall, September of 2014, and he was with us until, it's been almost a year. It was the end of the school year last year, and we grew to love Lucas. We wanted him to stay, but Lucas felt like he was ready to move in a different direction, and ultimately the direction was to be with Tammy and Jamie. And I've said a number of times, we knew back in September 2014 we wanted to take care of Lucas and his sisters, and we still have the girls. But I couldn't have drawn out, if he was not going to be with us, a better scenario than that Jamie and Tammy would begin mentoring him, and they would develop such a close relationship that when Lucas left us, he wanted to go and live with them. That's probably the ultimate of what mentoring can turn out. Now, on the other side, don't let that scare you, because that may not be your experience. So hand the mic down to Sean or Jennifer, whichever one of them. David, I'll come back to you guys in a minute. Whichever one of you, because the kids, you're mentoring 3 boys and a 4th who's not related to them. So just talk just a little bit about your experience with the age of the boys, some of the kinds of conversations you're having, what you see as the influence that you have the opportunity to make in their lives. Okay. Jennifer said she didn't want to stand.
I'm down here though. So I think what our goal has been is to, you mentioned the experiences. So it's what we try to do are the things with the boys that we wanted for our own boys. And we wanted to make sure they felt like they were a part of something, and not that we were entertaining them or taking them. These, to your credit and the program's credit, Ricky, they are so loved. They have so many experiences. They go to NBA games, college basketball games, pumpkin patches, everything in between. So a typical visit with us looks like family. We go home after church, we have dinner, and you mentioned the conversations that we have. Just regular family conversations and activities. How's your week? Is there anything that we can help you do? And they rat each other out, so we'll have opportunities to talk about things that maybe they could have done better. But we just tried to do things with them that were important to us as we raised our own boys. And now he wants to talk.
No, I was just going to say one thing. I remember my first experience when we come down here and sat with these kids. And I'll start out, though, with the training. One of the things that we learned in the training was a lot of these children don't have any interaction with their parents so bad that their mind didn't develop. They're behind. The first kid that I touched, just gives you a hug like they've been your child their whole life, because they were dying for that. That's it.
What you heard there from both Jamie and Sean and Jennifer is that family type of experience and relationship and connection is what we were shooting for and hoping for in mentoring. And somewhere along the way, I don't know, what's it been now, 2 years, or has it been longer, Shannon? I mean, I lose almost 3. You know, David and Shannon, and I'm, you know, I have to be honest with you. Jamie said the training and getting certified's not too tough. Well, it's a little bit more than that. I mean, it's about 30 hours, and, you know, it is a little bit rigorous. So, but, you know, my feeling is if Jamie can do it, anybody can. So, you know, you're all in good shape. You know, if Jamie can do it, you can take care of it there. But David and Shannon were moving toward that with us, and I think already had started working with the boys when we got Arena. But their mother decided that she wanted to place Arena with us, and she was, 3? And Miss Jan and I and Shannon loaded up in our bus and drove over near St. Louis to meet that mother and pick up that little girl. And the thing I remember most distinctly, this is the first time this child had ever seen the 3 of us, and she is a black child, and obviously the 3 of us are white. And you would have thought that she had been with Shannon since the day that she was born. I mean, she latched on to her, hugged up to her. On the way back, you know, they're sleeping, because it was, I mean, we got back home, 4 in the morning or something like that. It was, you know, I shouldn't have said that, because now you know that me and Miss Jan have pulled an all-nighter. But we were, you know, we were in St. Louis at 10 o'clock waiting for these folks, and they were late. But I remember that very distinctly, and the bond then with the boys and her. So Shannon, just what kinds of experiences have you seen, you know, from that early moment until now, of changes and development in the kids that you've been working with?
Well, we were first assigned to just the boys, and then we were excited to get the little girl just so that they can stay together. And that's really the only time that they get to see and be with her is at our house. So they love on her, and she's all excited. It was hard when we take her back home, because she'll cry the whole way home, not wanting to go back. And I think just having everybody all together, she enjoyed that. And being at the house, it's just, at first it was confusing for them. They didn't know why David and I would share the same bedroom, because they didn't have that at their house. Just do things as families. I was glad I got to meet the mother, because she's been easy on us to let them stay with us. We've taken them on some trips before, and that's been fun, things that they've never been able to do. I don't know.
And you know, Romello now learns that once he uses the restroom, it's nice to actually put the lid down. You know, when you're a room with, you know, when you have 8 boys, you know, he doesn't really. But I think the thing that's been really fun for us to be able to see and watch is the roles that they have as siblings. And you can see Isaiah, who is the oldest, clearly kind of knows his role, you know, in that family. And, you know, when we think about relationships and we think about family, you know, God had a wonderful plan. And, you know, siblings is probably the relationship that you're going to have the longest. In other words, you know, that relationship's going to last, you know, Lord willing. And, you know, it's so important for those children to have that relationship with each other. And, I mean, they are brothers and they are sisters, and it's not perfect. But, you know, and from a... Yeah, exactly. And you know, I will say, you know, it's one of those things, like the first time that we got Isaiah Romello in Arena, I think we asked about Isaiah. I think, was it around something special? I don't know. We were going to reward him, taking him somewhere. Well, he knew that you guys were going to Parker's, so clearly that was I think it was one of those, you know, you guys reward them for, you know, students, yeah. And I mean, he knew that you guys were going to be there, so that's where he wanted to be, because we are his mentoring family, but he certainly knows that you know, he has multiple families. They know that, and they feel so loved and so blessed being, you know, where they're at as far as that new pathway. And that's, you know, if we could have, you know, I know Jamie said something about not saying no to Jan, but, you know, if you see, you know, of course the time was Romello how old? 6. But I mean, he's been here since he was what, 4, 3.5, 4? Yeah. And I mean, you know, we've had them in class, and, you know, that relationship developed, and how could you say no to, you know, any of those smiles and the love that they provide? So it's been awesome.
Tammy, you get the mic, because I got the last question for you. So we're looking, and I appreciate what Jamie said about having, you know, a room full of mentors from Lone Oak. That's part of the reason we're doing this today. We've got the table set up. David and Miss Jan will be back there to talk to you. There's some information they can hand to you to look at. I think there may be a couple of families, Miss Jan, am I right, that are already starting the process from here. So we appreciate you doing that. And Tammy, I'm going to give you the last word. What would you say? Somebody's sitting out here and they've listened, they think, well, I don't know, maybe, maybe not. What would you say to get them over the hump, to encourage them to do it?
Just spend time with them. You know, you can start by just spending time with them here. That's where it started. You know, we were in, all 3 of us were involved in their teaching in Bible classes and in worship. And once you get to know the kids, you just fall in love with them, and you want to spend more and more time with them, because you know, you just fall in love with them. So, you know, if you're not sure and you don't know what, you know, that God has in store for you, I would suggest just spending time with them here at church, and that'll be the kicker.
Amazing how that happens. And I would encourage you, you know, we're talking about something here with what they've done, and obviously recruiting some folks that are more in depth. But, you know, I look around and I see many of you who, you know, I'm a Gramps ×2 now, and man, I don't know that there's anything greater, Vernon, than being Gramps. I mean, I'm loving it. The only part I don't love is that they're in Memphis, and, you know, we're here. But, you know, I think about, you know, our kids are here for Bible class, for worship, for meals, other kinds of activities. And some of you who may not be able to do the level of mentoring here, can you sit beside them at a meal and offer some encouragement and some attention and time that way, or teach a class or help in a class, or other kinds of ways where you can interact, because you have a lot of love, a lot of care, a lot of compassion that our children need. They're starving. I mean, I tell people all the time, it's just almost beyond understanding when they run up. They don't even know you. They run up and give you a great big hug and squeeze you. How could somebody not love and not want this child? I mean, how does that happen? You know, we've got 2 little girls. You know what they said they were thankful for a couple of weeks ago? They're thankful they don't have bugs in their room. They don't have bugs in their room. Now, we got lots of bugs at New Pathway. Stink bugs, they're everywhere. But we do our best to keep them out of the bedrooms and out of the house. And Inga was telling me the other day, one of them, she said, I guess if I'd let her, she would eat 5 sandwiches at a meal. You know what that's an indication of, don't you? Food insecurity. She's 6 years old. And she's been in a situation where she's not been sure where her next meal's going to come from. So there are a lot of ways we're recruiting because we want more people and to get the experience that Jamie and Tammy, David and Shannon, Sean and Jennifer, Marvin and Sherry are having. We want that for our kids. Our goal is to get mentors for every one of our children. But there are a lot of ways that you can pour into the lives of our children in an ongoing way as you interact with them. And we encourage you to do that. We want you to do that. And our children will benefit and be blessed by that. Jamie, you got one last thing? I think we're about out of time.
They all talk about the unexpected things that can happen. And by having the Bat Knot kids in our house and just being that example, and they ask all the kids from time to time, who do you see as a father example, a mother example, your male mentor, female mentor? The counselors ask them to write that. Who do they look up to? And this just a few weeks ago, Josie turned 15, and in the Hispanic culture, they have what they call the quinceañera, which is a big deal for a 15-year-old, for a girl. And she said, and it really surprised me, but she said, I want Jamie to be the one who walks me out and is my father. And so you just never know what's going to happen.
Let's pray, and then we'll be dismissed. Stop by the table as you go out, and there's some other information besides just the mentoring, some newsletters, other things. Miss Jan's going to head out there, and if you have any more specific kinds of questions, she or David can answer them. I'll be around. We can answer them. Kim's here. Linda Janis. Linda is fairly new with us. Raise your hand, Linda. She is a new case manager with us, working primarily with the girls. And so, we'll all be happy to visit with you. Let's pray. God, thank you for loving us. Thank you for your wisdom that created family. Father, I'm thankful for my family. My heart hurts for the children who don't have the kind of family that you want and desire for them. Father, I'm thankful that you've called us into this ministry to allow us the opportunity to be their family. The psalmist said in Psalm 68:6 that you set the lonely in families. The children who come to us are often lonely. They're hurt. They're broken. They're sad. Their lives have been confused and in disarray, but you've allowed us, as imperfect as the situation is, to become family to them, and you've brought people with compassion in their hearts along as mentors to open up their families to them. And I thank you for each one who has come alongside our children, and for those who are in that process now, and Father, for those that you'll bring in the future. Father, it's my prayer that always you'll help each one of us to look at each child we see each Sunday or Wednesday or wherever we may be, and do whatever we can to affirm for them that they are precious and important and valuable, and that they are loved by you and they are loved by us. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.